A Less Than Royal Narcissist, Part 22. Does Meghan know what she is doing? Many people have repeatedly asked me, HG, does Meghan actually know what she is doing? Is all of this planned? Is she consciously aware of the manipulative behaviour that she is engaging in? This is an important question. Of course, there are many who can't see that she's behaving in a manipulative fashion, blinded by their own support, or more usually based upon the fact that they don't understand narcissism because they've never come across it, and therefore their lack of understanding is somewhat understandable. Many are able to see what is happening. Of course, those who have ever been the victim of a narcissist have seen it more or less immediately and are able to identify all of the various manipulative behaviours and, of course, the response of Prince Harry as a victim. They recognise the dynamic, they understand the way that it operates, having been through it themselves. There are others who might not have recognised that it was narcissism at work, but felt that something wasn't quite right, that they've seen the disconnect in behaviours, that they have witnessed what they see as manipulative behaviour, but didn't realise that it was narcissism in action. As I have explained on repeated occasions, there is a whole host of evidence that demonstrates that this is a narcissist in action who has ensnared an intimate partner primary source, Prince Harry, but then raises the question of awareness. Most manipulators don't actually realise that they're being manipulative, and I will explain why this is in greater detail. There are those who are manipulative, know that they are, and get off on it, and invariably keep it to themselves, because to admit to what you're doing is a transference of power, and therefore one would not transfer power and control to somebody else. To help people understand narcissism, I've broken down the categories of narcissist into different schools: lesser and mid-range, greater and ultra, and there are sub-schools for lesser, mid-range and greater. When it comes to the awareness, the division is quite simple. Greater narcissist and ultra know what they are conscious of their manipulations, understand the reasons why they do it, operate in a conscious and calculated fashion. These individuals, which include myself, are extremely rare. These are the individuals that sit at the top of the tree and will of course not admit to such manipulative behaviour, because to do so would transfer power to other individuals and thus threaten the control that we need. The vast majority of narcissists, being lesser and mid-range, don't know what they are, have no awareness of what they are, and do not realise that they are being manipulative. To many of you, that may seem extraordinary. How is it that somebody can't see that they're being manipulative? Well, quite simply, it is because their narcissism blinds them to it in order to ensure that the narcissism is effective. For those of you listening, you will recognise that when you're manipulative, because non-narcissists can be manipulative also, but non-narcissists don't do it habitually, don't do it regularly, and actually aren't particularly good at it because they don't need to do it. They're not practiced at it. It isn't part of the skill set. But the important thing is that they know that when they are doing it. And therefore, understandably but mistakenly, they then think that somebody else who is being manipulative must realise what they are doing. And when you're dealing with a narcissist, for the most part, as most narcissists are lesser or mid-range, that means they actually don't know that they are being manipulative. Think about it this way. As you're listening to this now, if you heard a loud bang, you'd instinctively become startled. You might shrink, throw yourself under the desk, scramble under the table, because there's been a loud bang, an explosion. You would not do this. Oh, a loud bang. I wonder what that is. It might be a bomb having gone off. If a bomb has gone off, there might be shrapnel and debris flying through the air which could harm me, so I'd better make myself small and get to cover. Why do you not do that? Because in the time that it's taken you to think about doing all of that, you may well have been hit by the debris. You have to have an instinctive response that protects you. You may not know that when you are escaping danger, your vision automatically tunnels. You don't tell your vision to tunnel, it does it automatically. So that if you're running away from a lion, in order not to be mauled and eaten, your vision tunnels so that you are not distracted by things in your peripheral vision. So you don't suddenly think, ooh, look, Louboutin shoes, and stop to admire them, and the lion then pounces upon you. You don't tell your vision to tunnel, it does it automatically for you for the purposes of protecting you. As you sit listening to me now, are you telling yourself to breathe in or breathe out? Are you sat there going, breathe in, breathe out? Well, unless you're David Beckham, the answer is you will not be doing that. Are you instructing your heart to beat, your gastric juices to digest the last meal that you ate? Are you telling yourself to regulate your temperature? Do you instruct yourself to sweat? No. All of these responses and many more are instinctive and are part of your life support system and your self-defense. Narcissism is no different. It has to be instinctive for the vast majority of narcissists because that is the way that they have evolved. They can't stop and think about it because if they do, they would not achieve the prime aims. They would lose control. They wouldn't gain fuel as quickly as they would need to. There would be a hesitation, an indecision. Have you noticed, those of you who have experienced narcissists, that when a narcissist says something, it's done with conviction, an utter belief with regard to what is being said? And you may often think, how can he believe the lies that he is saying? The reason is, those lies are his truth. Because the narcissism creates a filter for the narcissist whereby what they see is slightly different to what you as a non-narcissist see. And the narcissist doesn't know that they see things differently to you, but they do. They see things through a lens of control. And therefore, that altered perspective means that their response has to be instinctive, instantaneous, and in effect, a knee-jerk, unconscious reaction. Because if it isn't, they will lose control, not garner fuel, etc. The narcissists that have an awareness have evolved differently as a combination of essentially being aware of their skill set and having the cognitive function at a much higher level to be able to consciously manipulate. That is not afforded to the majority of narcissists. There is a different evolution of the way that the narcissism works. So, a narcissist does not stand there thinking, I know I'm telling lies, but I'll say them anyway because this is hilarious. They have an absolute conviction in what they're saying to you. Take this, for example. Imagine you have taken a bump on the head, so you are no longer able to see the colour yellow. You now see everything that was yellow as green, grass green, and you have no memory of the colour yellow. And a friend comes along wearing a dress, and you say, what a beautiful green dress you're wearing. The friend looks puzzled. What are you talking about? It's yellow. No, it's not, you say. It's green. Why are you saying it's yellow? And I'm not talking about yellow-green where there might be a different interpretation. To you, it's very much green. No, says the friend, this dress is yellow. No, it's green, you say, becoming more frustrated. Why are you lying? Asks the friend. I'm not lying, you say indignantly. Why are you lying? Why are you saying that it's yellow when it patently isn't? It's as yellow as the sun up there. What do you want about? The sun isn't yellow. The sun's green. Any fool can see that. And this is what you're up against. The altered perception of the narcissist, which causes them to see events differently, to cause them to remember history differently, to cause them to remember things that didn't occur, and to believe their lies, means that the majority of narcissists don't know the real reason why they are doing what they are doing. Yes, certain narcissists will be aware that they are giving you a silent treatment, that they are not talking to you. But they don't realize that the reason they're doing that is for control, for fuel, to gain character traits and residual benefits. They believe it is because, through their filter, that you have done something unpleasant to them. So take another example. A male narcissist goes out for a drink with his female victim. She says, "I'll go and get some drinks from the bar." Her suggestion of doing so signals to that narcissist that he's got control. He's an unaware narcissist and doesn't know that he needs control. But his narcissism on his behalf says, "Oh, thank you," to her, responding in a benign way to demonstrate politeness, to maintain control, although he doesn't know that's what he's doing. She goes to the bar to obtain the drinks. She's doing something for him. This signals that he matters. While she's at the bar, she bumps into a colleague of hers, and she's chatting with this individual purely in a friendly way for 3 or 4 minutes. The narcissist observes the interaction. The victim is talking to her colleague, and she isn't touching him, she's just being friendly and civil, and then she returns with the drinks. When the narcissist witnesses his girlfriend talking to another man, she is no longer focused on the narcissist, and this threatens the narcissist's sense of control. But because he's an unaware narcissist, he doesn't realize this. Instead, the narcissism tells him she is flirting with that man, and the narcissist believes it because his perspective of the events, because he has an altered perception, is varied by his narcissism to make him believe that she is flirting, so he acts upon it to assert control. If he could see that she wasn't flirting but thought that she was, he wouldn't be compelled to act, and he wouldn't gain the control. In the same way, when you have a dry mouth and feel thirsty, your body is signaling to you, go and get something to drink, you're dehydrated, so it makes you act. When you twist your ankle, it hurts to make you stop running so you don't injure yourself further. The narcissism causes the narcissist to experience jealousy, hatred, envy, fear, whatever it might be, to provoke the narcissist into then reacting in a particular way to the victim to assert control over that person. She returns, and the narcissist says, "Why were you flirting? Who was he? You were getting rather friendly with him." And if she goes, "What are you talking about? That was just John from work," her response threatens the narcissist's sense of control. He then says, "Oh yeah, friend from work, it's quite clear there's something going on between you two. What are you talking about?" She says, "No, I was just being friendly. You were all over him." He doesn't stand there and think, "I know she wasn't all over him, but I'll say it anyway to upset her." He honestly believes that she was all over him because his perception of the events has been altered by his narcissism. In the same way that a schizophrenic might suggest that there is a plot amongst the registration plates of cars to assassinate Boris Johnson, the schizophrenic doesn't make it up. They genuinely believe that because their perception of the world is different. And so if you explain to that schizophrenic there is no such plot, they can't understand. They become distressed and upset because to them it is their reality. And with the narcissist, his reality in that moment was she was flirting with that colleague, with that man at the bar, that she had her arms draped around him and that she was making eyes at him, because that is what the narcissism has to make the narcissist believe in order to compel him to respond in a jealous manner so that he berates his girlfriend and then causes her to respond in a way where perhaps she apologizes after a while of arguing with him, so that she then gives him the control that he requires and the attention is back on him and she's giving him fuel. So, as I've explained previously, when Meghan Markle was involved in the bananas of empowerment instance, she didn't think to herself, "I know this looks crass, and I know this actually belies any example of emotional empathy, but I'll still write these slogans on the bananas for these sex workers." She honestly believed that what she was doing was fair, kind, and caring because her narcissism made her believe that. In the same way, that her narcissism causes her to recall events in a different way to enable her to assert control. So, for example, the suggestion that she made the Duchess of Cambridge cry is a criticism of her. It threatens her sense of her control. Therefore, her narcissism rewrites history and causes her to say, no, it was the other way round. It didn't happen like that. She isn't consciously aware that she is telling a lie. She doesn't sit there thinking, I know that I was the one that made Kate cry, but so what? I'll still tell a lie. She does so in the honest belief that what she is saying is accurate. But the problem with this, and I shall return to this shortly, is that this results in inconsistencies arising, which can then be identified, and this demonstrates that she is unaware of what she is actually doing. Meghan Markle never sat down and thought to herself, do you know, I am just a sort of C-list actress on a show that some people have heard of, many people haven't. Do you know what would be really good? If I go and find a British prince, marry him, make myself really popular, make myself really known, get a load of money, and then after a while what I'll do is I'll pull him away from his family, move him to Canada, then I'll move him to the United States, and then I will try and bring down the monarchy. Sounds like a plan? Put it on the to-do list. It doesn't work like that. She doesn't have a master plan. She actually responds to events as they occur. So, as you'll have noticed, that when she was welcomed into the royal family by the Queen and everybody else, it was all smiles. Why? Because those people were giving control to her. They were providing her with positive fuel, compliments, warmth, flattery, and therefore there wasn't an issue. But then, the moment that she is criticised, she has to respond in a particular way, whereby she will explain that she feels persecuted, because in her world, she does feel that way. And of course, there has been adverse comment about her, but she will never see it as justified. She will never, through that lens of narcissism, be able to think, well, that was fair comment about my behaviour, because all she sees is through a lens of control, and it has two settings. You're either giving me control, you're painted white, or you're threatening my control, you're painted black. And if you threaten my control, I must do something through the three assertions of control to nullify that threat. I must either do something directly to nullify your threat, indirectly to nullify your threat, or I'll withdraw to nullify the threat. Meghan Markle operates with a form of narcissism whereby she is unaware. She isn't, first of all, clever enough to operate in a calculated manner. Moreover, she repeatedly uses pity plays. They are not used by aware narcissists because it's beneath us. There are repeated inconsistencies with regard to her behaviour and what is said. That also demonstrates that she's unaware because of the compartmentalisation that occurs. The narcissism only cares about control in the moment, not yesterday and not in 2 months' time. And therefore, the narcissism is brilliant at getting control in that moment, and then you're into the next moment, and then the next moment, and the narcissist must gain control in each separate moment. So that means that a narcissist could say to you at 9 o'clock in the morning, I love you and I think you're wonderful. At 9:05, then say, I hate you. You're absolutely awful to me. And then the victim says, why are you saying that when 5 minutes ago you said that you loved me? As soon as the victim says that to the narcissist, they are threatening the narcissist's control. And the narcissist will instinctively, where an unaware narcissist, deploy the first line of the narcissistic defense, which is denial, and will say, I never said that I loved you. Yes, you did. You said it 5 minutes ago. No, I didn't. Why are you making things up? You're making things up. No, I'm not. Think back to the example of the yellow dress, the green dress. The narcissist's narcissism has rewritten history, wiping the I love you from the record. And therefore, the narcissist, moments later, even when it's moments later, because of compartmentalization, honestly believes that they never said that I love you. Or, if the narcissism operates whereby they're reminded of it, perhaps say it was put in a text message, the narcissist may say, well, I only said that because that's what you wanted to hear. I didn't mean it really. Throwing off the shackles of accountability because accountability threatens control. I repeatedly consult with people who find it difficult to believe that a narcissist isn't aware of what they're doing. But understand, the narcissist knows that they're criticizing somebody, but they'll see that they're justified. Some narcissists, the lessers, don't even realize what they're doing at all. They're like wrecking balls that cruise through life, and they'll look at you and go, what? When you give them a particular look or question them. They honestly don't see what they've done as wrong. A mid-range narcissist knows that their behavior might be seen as wrong, but in their mind, because of their narcissism, it is always justified. So, for example, a mid-range narcissist would say to you, I know it upsets you when I don't speak to you for a week, but if you stopped nagging me, I wouldn't need to do it, i.e., it's your fault that I don't talk to you. Of course, there is no nagging. The narcissism creates that idea in the narcissist's head to accord them with the knowledge that this individual is nagging them to provide them with a justification for the behaviour. And dependent upon the type of narcissist within the mid-range bracket that is being dealt with, the plausibility of the justification varies. Sometimes it's ridiculous, but that doesn't matter to the narcissist. Because if you then point out it's ridiculous, their narcissism will just shift again to reject that, because control must always be obtained. And if you don't accept what the narcissist is saying, and you keep threatening the control by arguing back, then the narcissism will just shift the narcissist to a different assertion of control, ultimately ending up with the narcissist saying, I haven't got time for somebody who doesn't listen to me, and walks away. Third assertion of control. They're not actually controlling you, they're nullifying the threat that your behaviour poses by walking away from you. So the narcissist always achieves control and always believes the narrative that the narcissism is creating for them. And hence, because of this altered perspective, Meghan Markle isn't aware that she is being manipulative. The narcissism won't let her see this, because if it did, she wouldn't be effective enough, because the way that she operates, she hasn't got the skill set or the cognitive function to do it knowingly. She will, for example, think, I need to release a statement countering the allegations that have been made against me, but that happens in the instant. And she will, of course, have a team around her that will be planning with regard to, say, future opportunities, and that they will offer them. But she hasn't got a master plan. She hasn't sat down and thought, I am going to go and do this interview with the sole purpose of telling a load of lies in order to cause trouble for those people and therefore assert control over them, assert control over the audience, assert control over Oprah, draw fuel from all of these people. She doesn't have that knowledge. Instead, she honestly and genuinely believes that she is the victim. And therefore, this honest and genuine belief means that when she says these things, she says it with conviction. I know there are those of you that talk about occasional smirks being given. And if you want to understand more about that, in terms of does this mean she knows what she's doing, listen to my video, The Narcissist Smirk. I go into that topic in detail to help you understand further. I deal with many, many narcissists. They're in my family. I've worked with them. I, of course, advise people with regard to their interactions and how to deal with them. I have dealt with narcissists. I have friends who are narcissists. I know famous people who are narcissists. And therefore, I know the ones that are aware of what they are, and the vast majority are not, because it needs to be instantaneous and effective. And Meghan Markle, although it may seem that she is aware, she is not. That is why, if you were to point out to her that her behaviour is manipulative, she will be genuinely offended, because she really doesn't think that it is. She can't see it. And those of you who have experienced narcissism will no doubt have come up against a frustrating brick wall where you have attempted repeatedly to try and explain to a narcissist their behavior, to get them to see that what they're doing is wrong and manipulative. And you are met with denial, word salads, circular conversations, physical violence, all done to nullify the threat to the control. And you can't get the narcissist to see. And it isn't the case with lesser or mid-range narcissists. They stand there thinking, oh, they're onto me, but I'll keep on lying anyway because it's amusing and I have to. They honestly can't see what you're telling them. You are trying to make a blind individual see. And that's why the most appropriate recourse is to have nothing to do with the narcissist, because you can't change them. Part of why it's evident that Meghan Markle isn't aware is because of the repeated inconsistencies that occur through the compartmentalizing behavior. If she was aware, her narcissism would operate in a way whereby there would be much more plausible explanations given, the obvious inconsistencies and hypocrisy would be ameliorated, and a much more convincing narrative would be provided, and of course there would be planning and calculation. Many of you have picked up on these contradictions, and some of them include the fact of saying that she doesn't read or watch press coverage, yet then claims to be completely tortured by the press coverage. That's a contradiction. And the reason for that is this. In one instance, she will say, I don't read or watch press coverage, because that dismissiveness of saying, I don't look at it, allows her to assert control in that particular way. Then, on a separate occasion, it benefits her in order to assert control through a pity play to talk about being tortured by the press coverage. She doesn't realise that she's contradicted herself because the narcissism doesn't let her know this. And if you were to point out that she contradicted herself, she will deny it. And this is where the gaslighting comes from. Similarly, there's talk about wanting to repair the relationship with the royal family. Yet, then an interview is given smearing the royal family through various criticisms. There's a demand for privacy. Yet, she then discloses private family matters before a television audience of millions. Both her and Harry stated they didn't want or need help and advice offered by them from members of the royal family about being in the royal family, and now they complain that they don't get enough help and advice about being together in the royal family. Talks are often given about sustainable travel, and yet there is the use of private planes and living in a huge mansion with all the attendant energy costs associated with that. There's the stance of not wanting or needing the monarchy, and yet the incorrect complaint was raised about Archie not being a prince. The maintenance of not knowing what she was getting into and not essentially knowing anything about the royal family, yet having earlier admitted to Tom Bradby of ITV that my British friend said to me, I'm sure he's great, but don't do it because the British tabloids will destroy your life, and reports that she idolised Princess Diana as a child, stating that they were forced to sign deals with Netflix and Spotify, yet Prince Harry is estimated to be worth £30 million. These are just a few of the repeated hypocrisies and inconsistencies that occur which demonstrate a lack of awareness, because if there was an awareness, these hypocrisies wouldn't occur. They would be managed with a far greater degree of charisma, a far greater degree of plausibility, and the lies that would be told would be far more convincing and not so easily spotted. I would recommend to you that where you are struggling, not through any lack of intellect, to understand that she is not aware, that you explore more of my videos on my channel where I go into it in further detail. It, in a sense, contradicts your understanding of the world. And what you have to recognise is that we operate through a toxic logic, that we see the world from a different perspective, because everything is a perception. And you and billions of other non-narcissists perceive the world through what I call the majority perspective. You see the world in a roughly similar way, through a lens of emotional empathy. We as the narcissists see it through a different lens, that of control. And dependent upon the type of narcissist, there is an unawareness that is being seen through this lens, or an awareness, and where there is an awareness, different behaviours and responses accord. Take some time to listen to the videos to increase your understanding, because it will also lay to rest many of the questions you will have, having been ensnared by a narcissist, to help you recognise what was actually going on. And listen to this video again to gain further understanding. But essentially, for the reasons that I have explained, Meghan Markle doesn't know the real reason that she's doing what she's doing, i.e. for control, for fuel, for character traits and residual benefits. She recognises that she will be criticising the royal family, but in her mind it's justified. She doesn't think that she is isolating Prince Harry from his family. She knows that she has moved him away from them. She's not blind to that, but she doesn't know that she's doing that in a controlling manner in order to control him directly and to assert control over the royal family through withdrawal. So she will know that she does things, but she doesn't know the real reason for it. Her narcissism gives her an alternative reason. I'm H.G. Tudor. Thank you for listening.